Hey, 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 hey. Happy, happy, happy Wednesday, everyone. I'm super excited to be here with you. Give me a second just to sort of reset up my space here so things can look better. Trying to get things to look better. Anyway, hopping in to say hello, see how you all doing this evening on this Wednesday night on July 15th, 2026. Very, very happy to be here with you. Again, I'm just trying to set up my space so it can just be better. So give me a minute just to get things more organized so I can look better on the screen. You know, how do we get this to work right? Sometimes we often have to ask ourselves the little thing, the little questions. Let's see if that does anything. Will that help? No, that doesn't help. My apologies. Anyway, it's going to be what it is for now until it's not. So, again, happy, happy, happy Wednesday to one and all. If you are here with me, let me know that. I'm going to take a minute just to share this out. And if you are with me, do the same. Share it out, let your folks know that I'm here, willing to have this conversation with every one of you. And let's see, where do we want to chat? Who do we want to chat with? All right. Sometimes it takes a few minutes to get everything organized behind the scenes. But we're getting there. We're getting there. We're getting there. All right. So we're here. And once again, for those of you who are tuning in, may you be strolling through Facebook if you are watching from there. Maybe you're watching through my YouTube channel, whatever have you. I'll go there in a minute. Just want to introduce myself. For those of you who are new to me, I am Reverend Dr. Joanne Barry Cologne, the founder of Holistic Fitness NY. As someone who supports women over 40 in releasing emotional weight without dieting, holding space as they gain confidence and courage to step away from their 9 to 5, outdated relationships, and old subconscious beliefs. I do blend astrology, numerology, and Reiki into my practice, as the W represents the whole person. You are more than your physical body. You are actually a spiritual being having multitudes of human experiences. And through those experiences are different lessons that help you grow to become the version you're looking to become. All that being said, I titled today's topic, The One Assessment Most Coaches and Personal Trainers Are Missing. We're going to get into that in just a moment. I just want to see if I can get more people here with me. So while I'm waiting for some of you to pop in, I'm just going to go and check my YouTube page to make sure I'm live there. And then we're going to have this really great conversation, hoping to share some, as I like to call it, nuggets with you. This way, you can walk away with some wisdom by the end of this time that we share together. All right. I think we got it there. So if you are watching through YouTube as well, you can by all means leave comments, chat along with me, let me know that you are here. And let's get back to Facebook. So this topic that I am going to be sharing with you tonight is somewhat very close to my heart. And the reason being it's so close to my heart is because it's something that for the last, give or take 10 to 13 years, I have been implementing into my practice more and more. As a certified holistic personal trainer for over, well, let me back it up. As a certified personal trainer for over 4 decades, working with clients like yourself, based on the traditional way of working with clients and helping them to get to the results they're looking to get. The 3D version of what we used to do back in the days, tape measures, scale measurement, and different types of assessments in reference to assessing the client's strength, flexibility, cardiovascular fitness, grip strength, mobility strength, and so much more. And somewhere along the line, over the last maybe 2 years, maybe even a little longer, what I'm noticing as I stroll through Facebook and I stroll through TikTok and maybe a little bit on Instagram as well, I'm noticing that there are a lot of trainers, coaches, and even everyday people just showing their workouts um, on their platform. That there's so much emphasis on different types of training, such as improving hip mobility, improving grip mobility, and wanting to work doing hip flexors so they can build, I think the expression is to build a shelf. And all of this is well and good. However, I like to believe, and I reference this a lot, so if you have followed me on a regular basis, you've heard me say this. Since 2020, back in March of 2020, from the pandemic, many of us have become very intuitive, sensitive, and empathic. Being that we were isolated and restricted in regards to different places that we went to and the amounts of people we spend time with. So with that, we became very sensitive. We became very sensitive and intuitive beings. And being that we are more sensitive and intuitive beings, a big part of that process is understanding who we are from a soul level. Now, I know back in the days when I first started in this industry over 4 decades ago, I went based on the simple protocols of the fitness questionnaire, the let's get to know you, let's do the step testing, let's do the flexibility testing, let's do the balance testing, everything to determine your strengths and if there were any physical limitations, which really measured the physical aspects of a client, which is all well and good. However, as I point out continuously, we are more than just a physical body. So if we are focusing strictly on the physical assessments, as mentioned, the step ups, the flexibility, the mobility, the wall sit, the squat overhead, just to see the shoulder mobility, grip mobility, and we're not looking at other areas of who we are, such as emotional beings, we are missing a huge portion of why many clients may not be reaching the specific prescription goals that most trainers and coaches are creating due to the emotional lack of assessment. And what do I mean by the emotional process of the assessment? Is understanding that every client that comes to you as a trainer, now I'm speaking to the trainers and the coaches out there, every client that comes to you may be coming to you with some sort of, I'm going to use the word baggage. And that baggage may be related to trauma that they've experienced. Perhaps, maybe they recently lost a loved one, or they lost a job, or a relationship ended. So, in the space of the grief of loss, they might have lost themselves. And we need to start taking this into consideration when we are working with our clients in regards to how we're assessing, so then we can create the best prescription for them. And one of the things I want to bring to the attentions of the trainers and coaches out there, as when we think about the most important assessment, that most important assessment is understanding the client beyond the workout. Because your client is more than muscle, more than the body fat percentage, and more than movement patterns. As mentioned, they're emotional beings. And because they're emotional and spiritual beings, they carry stories, they carry stress, they carry trauma, and they carry untapped potential, which is being overlooked due to all the physical assessments and the lack of the emotional assessment. So I want to put that on hold just for a minute, just to give you a chance to really digest that piece of information that I've said, especially for those of you who are trainers, coaches, and for many of you who are assessing your own workouts, where you're assessing whether your hips are tight today, or you have the shoulder mobility to bring your arm up over your head, or to pull your arm all the way back as if you were a pitcher. Because usually when we think about it, that's when we think about functional movement and who does what based on functional movement. How often, when we think about it, are we really extending our arm beyond normal range of motion, other than pitchers and some other sport athletes? So we need to start to think about how we're assessing ourselves. And are we assessing the whole person, the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual being that each and every one of your clients, plus yourself, if you're assessing yourself, are? And a big part of this is the understanding of who your client is or who you are if you're assessing yourself on a soul level, from a soul perspective. Now, when I work with clients in the last 13 years, before I create a prescription for any client, I go through a process of assessing my client's navigation system. Their navigation system is made up of their astrological chart based on their planets, their houses, and their zodiac sign. And right now, you may be thinking, well, that's all woo woo. And how does that apply to an assessment? Well, it's really not woo woo. And it definitely applies to the spiritual assessment to better understand the client you're working with. And more importantly, how to assess your client at that time that that client comes to you. What stage they're in their life? What chapter are they in? Are they in the chapter where they lost a loved one? Are they in the chapter where they're shifting gears from motherhood into midlife? Are they shifting gears into perimenopause or menopause? Are they, what level, what chapter is your client in? And understanding that chapter. Now, yes, in theory, when you think about your client and client coming to you, most clients are coming in with the idea of they're looking to drop 20, 25, or maybe even 30 pounds, and they want to be stronger. There's this big huge trend going on right now where we want to be stronger, we want to be able to um carry out groceries, do functional things, and live for longevity. So we want to be able to get off the floor, we want to be able to carry packages, all of those things per se. And those are all functional and definitely an ideal goal to have in mind. However, we still need to pay attention to the emotional and spiritual assessment of where your client's at when your client is coming to you at that moment of time. So, again, like I was saying, when I work with a client, and I want to say hello to everyone who is popping in. Hello, hello, hello. When I work with clients like yourself, I'm looking at their navigation system. And we undergo a variety of sessions in Reiki talk therapy. Why Reiki talk therapy? Reiki talk therapy helps the client have a space, a sacred space, a safe space where they can share whatever it is that they're going through at that moment of time. Again, as mentioned, you may have a client that's looking to sign up with you at this moment of time who just recently had a loss or they lost their job. And they need a space to be able to share this information so they can literally, as I like to call it, put the baggage down and feel safe enough to speak out loud about whatever it is they're going through at that moment of time. So that Reiki, if you're not familiar with what Reiki is energy healing that stems from the hands. We all have the ability to actually give ourselves Reiki, and it's a energy cleansing that connects with our chakra system, and each chakra is associated with a specific area on the body, and each area of the body is associated with our zodiac signs as well. So when I'm working with a client in regards to putting together a prescription plan for them, I am definitely looking at their navigation system to see where they are, how their three big signs, their sun, moon, and ascending sign, is interacting with the general energy we have going on at this moment of time. And then, of course, take in consideration where they are on an emotional level. Where are they in their chapter of their life? Especially for me, who dedicates my time and energy to women over 40 who is approaching that midlife mark and maybe coming in with um insomnia due to not getting enough sleep at night, or experiencing discomfort in their shoulder, some may refer to it as frozen shoulder, or experiencing extremely tight hips due to either sitting too long, or I want you to pay attention to this one, their trauma that they have not allowed themselves to tap into. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but when we talk about trauma, every emotional issue we've experienced in our lifetime since we're children, and even past life, literally sit in the hips. It's stored in our hips, which is one of the reasons, a main reason why many women, not just in midlife, experience a lot of hip discomfort. And if we think about our hips, the hip region is very much associated with the back, lower part of the back, and also the lower extremities from the thigh to the knee to the foot. So these areas of the body plays a huge role to specific traumas that your client coming to you for the very first time may be in that chapter of their life. So this assessment that so many trainers and coaches are missing, one of the reasons why they're missing is because they're not aware of this assessment. They're not aware of this assessment. The assessing of the navigation system and really getting to understand their client from a soul level, not just asking the general questionnaire in reference to what your blood pressure is, what your weight is, when was the last time you worked out, some family history. All of that is good and great. However, to really get into who that client is as they're sitting in front of you, and what have they experienced maybe in the last 6 months, a year, and maybe go as far as 2, 3 years in regards to what they're carrying. So getting to that place that you hold space for your clients so they can share whatever emotions are sitting within their bodies for as long as it's been sitting in their body. So again, understanding that your client or even yourself, because if you're assessing yourself, you want more than just your muscles, your body fat percentage, and movement patterns. And it's important now more than ever to start recognizing that you are a soul being. And as a soul being, your emotions play a huge role to how your body is going to respond or not respond to whatever workout regimen you're going to experience. So I just want you to take that in just for a minute and just take a breath just for a second here, because this is a lot of information and very new information for many of you. And you may be in this mindset where it just doesn't make sense to you. So just take that in for just a moment. So again, the concept of this assessment is understanding your client beyond the workout. So we're going to put aside all the physical assessments, the flexibility, the mobility, the strength grip, the cardiovascular fitness. We're going to put all that aside just for. And yes, those are extremely important, but may not be the best protocol for all of your clients. We really want to address the emotional and energetical, spiritual needs that your clients have and need based on the carrying of they carry their stories, the stress, the trauma, and the untapped potential. That's really the most important part, because when we can get to that place where we can get our client to feel comfortable, safe, to be able to share their story with you based on something that might have happened 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, and maybe even a childhood wound they've been walking around with. This will be the thing that really will help their body begin to release the issues that show up in their tissues. So I want to turn the page and share a little bit of wisdom with you when it comes to your client's navigation system and what we might look at as the woo-woo when it comes to astrology. I like to refer to as the navigation system, because when you do understand your own navigation system, nevertheless your client's navigation system, you begin to navigate. And then you can, from that point, decide what's the best approach to getting you to the results you're looking to get to helping your clients see the results they want. So when we think about this energy we're in now, energetically speaking, based on the collective energy, and I'm going to introduce you to some of the planets, and I'm going to introduce you to 2 zodiac signs. The one planet I definitely want to introduce you to is Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet known as spiritual growth, good fortune, and good luck. It's about the expansion. Now, whatever zodiac sign Jupiter is in at the time when it's in, the word expansion means that is also relevant to our body weight. So we just had what's called the Jupiter Cancer transit for the last 12 months. Jupiter spends 12 months in a zodiac sign. 12 months. So if you've worked with clients who have their major three placements, such as their sun, moon, or ascending in Cancer energy, and you've noticed that they put on a little bit of weight because you put them on a scale, or just noticing their appearance looks different, note that is a contribution of Jupiter's energy. And when we think about Cancer in itself, the zodiac sign Cancer is a water sign. So when Jupiter is in a water element, the clients will hold more water. And that may very well cause bloating. And when we understand this concept, we then can create a plan. And for those of you as trainers and coaches who are qualifiable to create a nutritional plan, you can create a nutritional plan that's going to balance out the fact that your client may be experiencing some water retention due to the Jupiter Cancer energy that we just came from. Now, the good thing is Jupiter has moved out of Cancer. So those who do have their top three their top three planets in Cancer energy, such as their sun, moon, or ascending, as your client, you may start to notice that over the next couple of weeks or months that your client who might have put on a little water weight, it starts to decrease and be released because the energy of Jupiter is no longer in their house on their chart. Now, Jupiter has entered Leo, and Leo is a fire sign. And the same concept goes with Jupiter as the planet of expansion. Now, because this is a fire element versus a water element, you may find that this particular client may experience a body temperature changes. Whether they're in midlife or not, they may perspire a little bit more and they may just be hot just a little bit more because of the Jupiter Leo energy. So we need to accommodate for your client who does have their top three planets in Leo. Now, the top three planets that I speak of, and I mentioned it a few times already, is the moon energy, which is about our feelings and how we express those feelings. The sun energy, and the sun is literally what the light is beaming on the energy of that chart, that house, in order to help that client become the version of who they're meant to be. And then their rising energy is the energy that they're walking in the room as, that we get to see. And some of your clients may very well have their sun, moon, and ascending all in one house. And if that is the case, then yes, that particular client is definitely going to feel the potency of Jupiter's energy in Leo. So you want to pay attention to this aspect of their chart. And the types of workout we're going to want to give this client that they will benefit and see the results they're looking to see. So again, I'm just going to give you a minute just to take that in because I know that's a lot of information. And new information that may seem still a little bit overwhelming and a little confusing to, again, you're trying to grasp the understanding of how our navigation system has anything to do with creating a prescription plan for your client. So here's also where it gets interesting when we talk about these two zodiac signs, Cancer and Leo, and why I'm emphasizing on Cancer and Leo right now. Cancer, the zodiac sign, is ruled by the moon's energy. The moon rotates every 2.5 days. So if you do have a client who has their top three planets in Cancer, every 2.5 days, their emotional state changes based on the energy of where that moon is. And that holds true for all of us. So even if a person does not have Cancer in their top three, every 2.5 days, the moon moves into a different element. So as of right now, we are experiencing, or as of right now, we're actually experiencing what's called the void of course, which means the moon's energy is sort of sleeping and your own personal energy comes out in play. But we just came off a Leo moon over the last 2.5 days. And we're going to get prepared, move into a Virgo moon. Now, the difference between a Leo and Virgo moon, as I said, Leo is a fire energy. Leo's energy is about being big and bold and courageous. And on a denser side of that energy, it could be about being egotistical, sarcastic, and not so bold. And when we think about the Virgo energy, Virgo is Earth's energy, so it's grounded, more centered, more focused, and the denser energy of that is a perfectionist, somebody that wants to make sure they're doing it right, someone that needs the reinforcement of that they did it right. So if you have a client that happens to have their top 3 planets in Virgo, they need that external reinforcement of they did it right. So they're looking theoretically for that compliment, that award, that was a great set. They're looking for that. So it's really important to understand what the navigation system is so you can give the client what they're looking for from their workout. Now, yes, grant you, we talk about our clients looking for strength. We're talking about our clients wanting to release weight. We're talking about the fact that they want to have longevity. They want to live healthy and be strong enough to live a long life, longevity. They want to be able to carry their own groceries. They want to be able to functionally get up out of a chair. But they also want to have confidence and and praise in regards to being recognized that they did a good job. So giving that client who's a Virgo a high five, that Leo, allowing them to be bold and courageous and loud when they their workout. So when we think about, again, these 2 specific zodiac signs, Cancer and Leo, we just came out of that Jupiter Cancerian energy for the last 12 months. And we've just entered Jupiter in Leo on June 30th, and it will be there for the next 12 months. So when we think about the Jupiter Leo energy, the area of the body that Leo rules, and this is another extremely important component to assessing, and this also expands out now to our massage therapists, our emotional freedom techniques as well, is when we talk about Leo's energy, we're looking at the spine, we're looking at the heart, we're looking at the upper back, and we're looking at the circulatory system. Now, I really want to zoom in when we talk about Leo's energy. I want to zoom in on the upper back and the heart. And the reason being is when we think about the different symptoms that many women speak about, such as the frozen shoulder, heart palpitation, stiffness in the neck, we may want to take a look at where Leo is on their chart, because it could be a good explanation that they have a very strong Leo energy. And also because we do have Jupiter sitting in Leo, the metaphysical process and property of Jupiter sitting in Leo is this area on our body is also being expanded. Now let's take it one step further when we talk about the Leo energy and the specific parts of the body that Leo rules. When we talk about the upper back and we talk about the chest, we're also talking about, or should I say the heart, we're talking about the heart center. So it's the heart chakra. So again, if we have a client that's coming to us who is has experienced grief, a loss of a loved one, maybe a loss of a job, maybe they're in that space, they're in what we call nest syndrome, where their children are moving out. And now for the first time after maybe 18, 20 years, they're in their home, possibly with their spouse and themselves. And that can be really lonely because now your client needs to reintroduce herself to who she is and possibly reintroduce herself to her husband, and he needs to do the same for her. So the heart could be really heavy. And with that, that can be causing a collapse. So the shoulders fall forward because of the sadness that's overwhelming them. And if their heart is feeling heavy, that can also show up as when they are working out, where they're breathing heavier than usual because of that heart palpitation. So again, we need to take all this into consideration when we're working with our clients in assessing. It's assessments when it comes to the energetic and spiritual properties. It's not a one-time, one and done assessment. It's an assessment we do continuously when we work with our clients, because ideally, at least for me as a trainer, when I work with my clients, I always ask my clients how their day was. What was going on in their day? Was their day productive? Was it busy? I usually start, was it busy? And then was it productive? And we may get that 5 minutes of conversation just to find out what was going on in their day. And energetically for me, I'm sort of scanning their chakra system to see if there's any heaviness going on in their physical well-being. That could be the very thing that may cause a delay or a decrease in the workout they're doing for that day based on their previous workout. So again, these are reasons why we want to have this assessment, this understanding to when your client comes to you. As I like to remind you or inform you, because you may not know what to be reminded, is that, as I said earlier, the moon rotates every 2.5 days. So when I see a client on Monday, by the time I see that client on Wednesday, there's a good probability that moon is now in a different zodiac sign than it was on Monday. So that means that client may have a different emotional state because the moon has shifted into a different zodiac sign. And I need to take that into account when I'm working with that client based on what they've done in their day before they actually come to see me for their training. So there's a constant assessment that's going on, understanding where the collective energy is with our planets. And as mentioned, I've only spoke to you about one planet, which is Jupiter. We have a whole list of planets that we have to take into consideration. I'm going to mention another planet that's very essential at this moment of time, which is Mercury. If you're not familiar with the planet Mercury, Mercury is associated with communication. That's its primary process. It's associated with learning to listen, teaching, speaking, writing, learning, and it's about technology as well, and also traveling. Now, wherever Mercury is on your client's chart, whatever house that is in, it will give you a theme to what's going on for them and how they do communicate or don't communicate. And then you may have to pull it out of them, because if your client is not a great communicator, you may have to get them to talk so you can better understand what's actually going on. Now, the reason why I bring Mercury into the conversation is currently we have Mercury in what's called a retrograde. Now, a retrograde means that the energy of that planet has slowed down to help us review everything that's associated with the energy that Mercury's in. And currently, Mercury is in Cancer, just as the sun is in Cancer. So when we talk about Mercury being in Cancer, now I gave you the breakdown based on what Leo, or the body parts Leo rules. Let me give you the breakdown to the body parts Cancer rules. Cancer rules the breast, also the chest, the digestion, and the stomach. That's the Cancer energy. So again, as I said earlier in my introduction, When we think about the stomach, in regards to how is your client digesting the different things that's going on in their life, the different lessons, how are they digesting the food, what kind of food plan are they on, is that the best food plan for your client to be on at that moment of time? When we speak about Cancer energy, I like to refer Cancer energy as 3 different compartments. First compartment is Cancer is associated with home, meaning shelter, family, everything relating to family, and it could be blood related or friend related. Family. It's very much associated with mother, their mother energy, their mother relationship. It's also about how they mother their own self and how they mother others, and if they have children as well. The mother with them. The second compartment that Cancer is associated with is their career. What is their career? Are they working a job that serves their soul's purpose, that's filling them up? And if so, awesome. Or are they working a 9 to 5 that is basically fulfilling their material lifestyle and may not be filling their soul's purpose, which means there's something missing, and they may be feeling an emptiness that sits in their chest, that heaviness that sits in their chest. The third compartment of Cancer is the physical body. The physical body. Now, if you are here for the first time watching this, or you've been here with me many other times, you'll hear me say your physical body is your biggest messenger. Your body is always sending messages to you. And it's so important to learn how to tune yourself and also become aware of your clients' physical symptoms that they have, which allows you then to start asking questions about their day, what's going on. So when you are working with your client and they may mention to you that their shoulder is bothering them, or you could see during their workout that they're not doing a full range of motion, there could be some tightness in their shoulder, but not necessarily due to limited range of motion, but because of, again, the shoulder is in theory the metaphysical process of they're carrying the weight of the world on their shoulder. A very fun expression that I love so much is all the shoulds. What are we shoulding? I should be doing this. I should have done it this way. I should have done it this way. If I only knew that then, I should have done it this way. And that eventually over time puts a lot of stress on the shoulder. And that may prevent your client from moving their arms in full range of motion because of all the heaviness their shoulder is carrying. Now, if you think about it, when we think about our shoulders, between our shoulders is the throat. And our throat is assigned to how we communicate, which again come back to Mercury retrograde, communication. Are we great communicators? Is your client able to say to you, oh, today my right shoulder is not moving the way it normally does? Or are you a good assessor where you can see that when you give your client a specific exercise, that body part is not moving in the correct range of motion? So there needs to be a dialogue, a conversation with your client to find out what is going on today that could be the cause of the limited range of motion. And it may take them a little while to share whatever took place. They might have just had a conversation, intense work meeting that before they started their training with you, they just came from an intense work meeting and that's sitting on their mind. So we need to pay attention and we need to assess this because that's going to affect the progress of that workout, their performance from their last workout to this workout. Because again, as trainers, I know we're keeping journals, but we're logging their workouts to see what they did in the last shoulder workout and what they're doing in this shoulder workout, and how their moving patterns are, and are they progressing? And if they're not progressing, is the lack of progression due to they're just not getting strong because maybe they're just not getting the right amount of sleep, or they're not getting the nutrients they need, or are they emotionally overwhelmed by something? So there's so many different factors that we have to take into consideration when we are working with a client in regards to how their movement patterns are going along based on whatever's going on emotionally for them. So these are extremely important in order to help your client get to the results they're looking to get. And it's not just about, well, let's do mobility drills, or let's go get a deep tissue massage to push out the fascia. Because again, even for our massage therapists, if we're just gonna push deep into that muscle when there's an emotional situation going on, we're not serving the client or patient. What that client or patient actually needs in that moment of time is a moment of conversation that may take about 5 minutes. Another process of the training assessment, when you're noticing that your client may have that restriction going on, whether it's in their shoulder, or you're getting ready to give them that exercise for their lower extremities, maybe a forward lunge, maybe a reverse lunge, maybe a squat, and you're noticing that their range of motion isn't deep for them, because we need to remind ourselves that not every client is going to be able to go as deep as every client. So range of motion, what is restriction about? Is it an ankle issue? Is it a knee issue? Is it a hip issue? Is it a balance issue? Or is it an emotional issue? Because again, if your client is experiencing some sort of trauma, an emotional trauma that's stored in their body, and until you give that client the space and to feel safe enough to talk a few minutes with you about whatever it might have been that is creating this emotional stress in their body, you're not going to be able to perform that movement pattern with excellence. And for that matter, that could actually hinder their results and even create injuries, because they're not given the space to tap into the emotional traumas. So this is why it's so important to pay attention and understand this type of assessment. And you may want to, as trainers and coaches, and even for our massage therapists, you may want to start implementing 5 minutes of talk therapy, a little Reiki. Teach your client how to perform Reiki on themselves. So before they come into that session, if they're coming from a work meeting, or they just came from home, or they came home and they came home into a distressful space, how to clear their energy so they can be in the right state of mind for the next thing they're about to do that has to do with their physical body. So it's really important to create this assessment into your protocol with your clients, not just a one and done, because it's not just something you're going to do every so often just to see where they are. It's an assessment we need to do pretty much every time we see our client. And coming back to the moon energy, understanding the moon rotates every 2.5 days. Having 4 elements that the moon is going to travel through: fire, earth, air, water. And depending on what moon sign your client is will definitely define how your client is going to respond, emotionally speaking, to that workout for that day. Whereas again, the fire energy is all about explosive. It's fast paced. It just goes. So when we do have that fire moon energy, your client may seem to have a little bit more energy within them, especially if they happen to have fire energy in their top three. If the moon happens to be in Earth's energy, your client may be a little bit more focused, a little grounded, but if they are emotionally distressed, they may be distracted, which means they're not paying attention. They don't have that mind body connection to what they're doing. And it's your job as the trainer and the coach to bring them back to their center. Because, at least from my perspective, when my clients sing with me, the only thing that matters at that time of their training is them. It's not about what's going on in the other room. It's not about the meeting they had an hour ago. It's not about their grocery list they have to do in 2 hours from now. It's about the moment of now, in this moment of now. And it's so important for their results when they're in the presence of now. So now, if the moon happens to be in air, it's about them analyzing, they're evaluating, and they may be over processing, overthinking what it is you're doing. So they may be second guessing, is my form okay? Am I okay? And that may be a day where you may have to reinforce how they're doing what they're doing. And then, of course, when the moon happens to be in water, that's an emotional day. So they may be a little bit more emotional than usual. You may have to be a little more sensitive to how you share their progress with them for that day so they don't take it to heart. So this is why this type of assessment is so important, because it's not a one and done. It's not something you do once a month. It's a daily assessment when you work with your clients. And really being able to fine tune the muscles they're working on and how they're moving their body, as we call it, the movement patterns, and becoming really aware of how our zodiac signs are associated with specific areas of the body. And if your client does have a very strong placement of that zodiac sign, you have to be aware of how they're going to move that body part when they're doing a specific exercise. So again, just to recap, when we talk about Leo's energy, because again, Jupiter's in Leo, and in less than a week from today, which is the 15th of July, the sun will be in Leo. So there's going to be a lot of Leo energy, and the Leo is associated with the spine. So just think about when we exercise, when we're working out, how to engage the spine and what could be going on with the spine if the spine is not engaged when your client is doing the workouts they're doing. So again, we need to pay attention to what your client is doing based on the specific areas of the zodiac sign and the body. And helping your client to become more grounded, focused, so they can be more productive in getting to the result they're looking to get to. And paying attention to your client's emotional state. And that is the very assessment that is missing from many trainers and coaches protocol when they're working with their client. You're not looking at their client as a whole person. They may be looking at, if you're a life coach, you might be looking at your client's finances. Now, even in navigation system, when you're looking at their navigation system, you can find out a lot of information based on why their finances may be the way they are. Now, if you're working with a client as a life coach and you're working with them to improve their business, there's specific houses on the chart that is going to give you major insight to their money marketing and how to use their money marketing and how to expand on bringing more income based on these specific house placements. So it's really important to learn how to read, for one, your client's astrological chart, and of course, looking at your own chart, and then how to navigate. Depending on, again, are you a personal trainer where you're looking at your client's body and trying to really understand the patterned movements and their respiratory system and their circulatory system and how their what their range of motion is, and do they have the stability to stand on one leg? Do they have the stability to do a forward or reverse lunge? Do they have the spinal rotation so they can do spinal exercises? Do they have the core strength to stand upright? All of this is related to what's going on in the navigation system, and more importantly, what's going on with them emotionally speaking. So I thought today would be a great day for me to come and share this information. And again, I shared with you just Jupiter and Mercury. There's so much more. And each of our planets play a huge role to how we are transitioning, how we are evolving, how we are looking to become the different version of who we are. And when you are keeping a journal of your client's progression in reference to who they were when they first started with you, what their life was like when they first started, what their life is like now, and what their life is going to be as they progress forward. My other favorite expression is who you were yesterday is not who you are today. And who you are today is not who you'll be tomorrow. Because we're constantly evolving. But if we never address the emotional side to things, the energetic emotional components of who we are and what we're going through in our everyday life, and we step into that workout space and we're not addressing the emotions, we're not going to be fully present in getting the results we're looking to get. So we need to bring that assessment into play. We need to pull that assessment into play. Now, one of the reasons why I'm addressing personal trainers and life coaches, after sitting with many different coaches who also do training, they refer to themselves as as a coach rather than a personal trainer. This is why I'm gearing towards that audience. And of course, for many of you who are doing it, going on it on your own, and you may or may not have the experience to really be able to assess why you're having such a challenging time getting your arms all the way up, or why you're having such a challenging time going into that deep lunge or that deep squat. And are you supposed to? Just because we are being programmed to believe that we're supposed to go into these deep squats. Again, it's not a one-size-fits-all program. And we have to ask ourselves, when was the last time I did a deep squat? When was the last time I did a deep squat? Was I in my 30s? Was I in my 20s? Was I a kid? Because again, when we think about our physiology and how our muscles respond, if we're not using that muscle in that degree, we will lose that degree. So if you are not continuously training beyond that 90 degree, such as our squats, where you're trying to get your butt below your knees, you're not training in that capacity, then you're not going to be able to get yourself into that deep squat. So now if you are working with a trainer who's trying to get you into that deep squat and you just don't have the mobility, or your hips are so tight because you have so much trauma in your hips from emotional baggage you've been carrying, we need to start there first. We need to work on releasing the emotional trauma that sits in the hips. And a lot of that could be very much associated with what's called restorative yoga, simple, gentle poses, or back in the days known as stretches, or isometric stretches where there's no movement to it, where we're just going to allow our body just to completely come to a relax. Now, if our mind is constantly on the go and we don't know how to relax, our muscles are not going to know how to relax. So again, these may be things you may want to implement into your client's program and not expect your client to go home and do it on their own. I myself fall into that as well, where I'll give my clients specific homeworks to do, expecting that they're going to go home and do it. And the reality of it all is, chances are they're not. They may do it for a day or two and then they stop doing it because life gets in the way, or they forget, or they're not feeling what they were feeling before, which is why they did it. Very similar to physical therapy for that matter. I was chatting with a client of mine a couple of months ago who was going to physical therapy because she had strained her groin getting out of a car. And she was going to a physical therapist so they could give her specific stretches to do, and also hot heat and ice to help release the tension in the groin. And the therapist suggested that she do the specific stretches 2 or 3 times a day. And when I would meet with her for her Reiki talk therapy, I would have her do her stretches as well. And I would ask her every once in a while, are you doing your stretches? And just based on the different things I would have her do with a workout, I knew the answer was no, because I could see that there was a tightness coming from her groin and how she was moving. And she would say, oh, I was doing them for a little while, but I stopped doing it, or I forget. So as a trainer, as the coach, you may have to implement these into your client's program, have them do them maybe the last 5 minutes of their workout time with you, where you have them do that exercise there. You could pretty much go on your own and just have them just sit there and do that, if again you have the time to do that, and have them do that as part of their regimen so they can improve their mobility, which then will decrease their injury risk and improve their progression. So, for those of you out there who are trainers and who are the coaches, and those of you who are doing it on your own, you're following your own workout, you put together your own prescription plan, and you're curious on how to implement this particular program that I'm speaking about, which I like to call the Wise Woman Method. Excuse me. The Wise Woman Portal Method. If you're interested in learning more about that, feel free to reach out to me. We'd love to have a conversation with you, learn a little bit about you, how long you've been doing personal training, or been a coach, or going about it on your own, and see how we can work together for me to implement this, help you implement this type assessment into your prescription plans with your clients, so you can actually show up for your clients to help them. So your client can actually get the benefits of their result, as opposed to just having them follow fitness trends. Have them start to actually see transformations. Because in theory, again, as I mentioned, scrolling through TikTok and Facebook and occasionally Instagram, me being a trainer, I am sure there's many women out there that are overwhelmed by the outdated fitness strategies and the latest fitness trends that many personal trainers and coaches are still working with. I like to refer to it as the cookie cutter approach, the one size fit all. I'm going to give this plan to this client and that client and this client and that client because it helped one client get to where they needed to go. So I'm going to give that plan to everybody and hope and pray it helps them too. Remember that your client is a spiritual being. They have emotions. They're having multitudes of human experiences. Every 2.5 days, their emotions change based on whatever's going on in their personal life and where the moon is. And when you can and do know and understand their navigation system, you can take a quick peek at where these specific planets are daily to then look at their chart to see how it's going to play a role in when they show up for their regimen and how are they going to be able to perform at their highest level for them to get them to the results they're looking to get physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, because we are a whole person. And when we start literally bringing assessments in that's going to include the whole person, you're going to see a huge difference when it comes to your clients' results. Because they know they're going to come into a sacred space. They're going to come into a space where they can share their deepest moments with you. Something that took place in their day that was emotionally draining for them. That they know they can have that 5-minute conversation just to let it out. You don't necessarily need to fix it for them. You just need to hold space so they can feel safe enough to share whatever their emotional needs are. And that you'll understand. And not just ask the genetic question of, how was your day? But really asking, how was your day? And if they say their response is, oh, it was a good day. Was it a productive day? And it gives a little bit of a dialogue. It helps you to really have a conversation. It's not just about the conversation of what they're going to be working on in that moment of time that you're working with them, but it gives a dialogue to how that workout's actually going to go. Now, from my experience, when I work with my clients, sometimes my clients, when they start their workout within the first 5 minutes, they may start off a little slow and sluggish because they're transitioning from what they were doing before into that workout. And it may take them a little bit of time to transition and really kick in to the fact that they're here and now in that workout regimen. And that by the time they're done with that workout, their endorphins are kicking. They're feeling amazing. They know that they progress in that workout because they can see it based on what we've done together. So those assessments are important. All right, my email is scrolling on the bottom. So any one of you who are interested in getting more details about my Wise Woman portal method, so you can start implementing that into your plan and really be able to fine tune the assessments of your clients and not just focus on their strengths of their physical body, which is really important, but it's not it's not the primary component, because your client is more than their workout. And it's time that we start assessing who they are outside of their workout so they can be productive. All right. I want to thank everyone who's here with me. If you are watching on Facebook, I would love to hear your comments. If you want to just drop some comments in below. If you have a question, I'm here. I can take a peek at them and respond to those questions. If you are watching from YouTube, I am not currently on that page in this moment, but I can always come back and I can look at them later. If you have a question that you want to email to, my email is healingwithin76@gmail.com. Feel free. I also have a strolling course, astro.com, which is the actual website that you can go to get your own natal chart. I highly recommend that you do. And as, again, trainers and coaches out there, I highly recommend that you do sit down with your client when you're doing the general health assessment, that you also find out what their birthday is, their time of date, a time that they're born, and the city they're born in, so you can pull up a chart for them. It's not necessarily so you can sit there and have astrology readings with them. It's so you could better understand who they are, which again, under my method, you will be able to read their chart, read your own chart, and it's just really great information to help you navigate and prescribe the best holistic approach for your clients. After all, the W in holistic for me is all about the whole person. It's not just about getting them to be able to do endless amounts of push-ups, having them be able to go into a deep squat, having them walk with 50% of the weight in each hand so they can walk across the room, which is a functional activity. Yes, we all want to be able to walk with packages in our hands and standing upright because we have the core and spine strength to do so. And we can have all that, but if we are emotionally stressed, if we have emotional trauma, that's sitting in our body. And that could be the cause to why we're not seeing the results we want to see and why we're experiencing the physical discomforts we're experiencing in our bodies. So we need to correct that. And then we can start looking at all the other assessments. All right. Again, thank you so much. I am Reverend Dr. Joanne Angel Barry Cologne, the founder of Holistic Fitness NY. You can find me on Facebook. I recommend you email if you have any questions. And until we meet again on the other side, as always, enjoy your day, make it a good one, and explore everything you can explore so you can discover who you are. You are a spiritual being having multitudes of human experiences. Who you are today is not who you'll be tomorrow, and who you'll be tomorrow is not who you'll be the next day. We're always evolving. Until we meet again. Bye-bye for now.